And as I said earlier this week, it means a lot to convey all the information that we're providing out to Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, so I appreciate your hard work as well. Just an update on the number of wildfires, so we can, again, continue to put in context how severe this situation is. According to the provincial wildfire dashboard, we are now at 214 fires in the province so far this year, compared to 97 last year. And of course, as we now know, multiple fires which are occurring simultaneously in different regions of the province continues to present challenges. But as true Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, we continue to see tremendous, overwhelming commitment to help. I want to start by talking a little bit about the new off-road vehicle restrictions that were discussed and put in place yesterday. I want to reiterate and be very clear that this is a temporary measure that out of an abundance of caution we've decided to put in place to help protect our communities. The restriction applies throughout the entire province in areas where the fire weather index is classified as either high, very high, or extreme. It will be in place till at least 11:59 p.m. Sunday, August 17th, 2025, and we will reevaluate it based on the forecasted wildfire index and wildfire behavior at that time. If anybody was already in the woods at the time this order was put in place and they need to use an off-road vehicle to exit a restricted area, there is a one-time exemption to leave the area that you were in place. This exemption ends at 11:59 p.m. Friday, August 15th, 2025. Again, this is if you were already in the woods at the time we put the restrictions in place yesterday. I will reiterate what I said yesterday, that an off-road vehicle is defined as a wheeled or tracked motorized vehicle designed or adapted for cross-country travel on land, water, ice, snow, marsh, swampland, or other natural terrain, and includes an all-terrain vehicle, including a side-by-side, a mini bike, dirt bike, or trail bike, a miniature vehicle, such as a dune or sport buggy, an off-road maintenance machine, and an amphibious vehicle. And forested land is trees or shrubs, dry marsh, bogland, land commonly known in this province as barrens, and does include trailways. I'll just add that we have received numerous calls asking specific questions about what parts of the province this applies to and what sort of vehicles it applies to. I would ask everybody to the spirit of what we're trying to do here and not look for exceptions to the rule. Just try and generally follow the rule, and the rule is be safe. Assume it is an off-road vehicle, assume it is a wooded area. We're only asking people to do this right now for a few more days. So don't try and figure out how to get around the rule. Try and figure out how to follow the rule. We also know many individuals have been displaced and negatively impacted financially due to the evacuation orders that have been put in place. And in some cases, this means individuals are without employment income due to an inability to access their workplace. This is creating a situation of additional stress and uncertainty for evacuees who are living nearby the wildfires. Throughout the past couple of days, I've spoken with Minister Jerry Byrne, and we will be requesting the federal government extend employment insurance flexibilities for impacted workers. This has been offered by the federal government during other major wildfires throughout the country. And to expedite EI benefits for people impacted by these areas will help greatly. This is, of course, in addition to the immediate support the Government of Newfoundland and Labrador has been providing in partnership with the Canadian Red Cross and the Salvation Army. So as for the specific updates on the wildfires, Mother Nature is giving us a little bit of a break, and crews are expecting a good day in parts of the province with regards to fire suppression. The Kingston fire is now 8,019 hectares at almost 1,500, mostly on the western edge, inland and away from the coast yesterday. Ground crews are working to secure the southern edge, and it has been a big success in slowing down this fire. Construction is still going on the fire break to the north of the fire, and approximately 2 kilometers of a fuel break has been completed. The fire has reached Northern Bay. Again, we do not have a specific number of any impacted structures in that community. On the fire today, there will be 1 to 2 tankers, and the high-capacity helicopter will be in the area. There will be 3 bucketing helicopters as well, and 20 ground crew from Ontario, Newfoundland and Labrador forest firefighters, local fire departments, and crews continue to work on the fuel break. Military crews and volunteer fire departments are also assisting with suppression efforts. Just to provide an update, I know the question's been asked about the potential number of structures. Again, I need to be very clear that it is next to impossible to determine how many structures have been lost due to the extreme fire behavior and the smoke and the danger of trying to make that assessment right now. So, of course, when we get through this, we will be able to accurately assess what has been damaged and what has been lost in these communities. But I know people are continuing to ask. So the number right now, to a best approximation, is that there's potentially up to or around 100 structures, 100 homes that have been lost due to the Kingston fire. There is not much change in the Paddy's Pond fire overnight. It is now about 306 hectares. The winds this morning are southerly and moving to southwest early to mid-afternoon, which is good news because it would push the fire into Paddy's Pond. Cooler temperatures, higher humidity with some cloud cover are favorable, even if there's not much rain today. Some fire breaks are complete and some are still under construction. The fire guards are continuing to work well, and at this time, there's no structure loss reported. Today at Paddy's Pond, there will be 3 to 4 tankers, a bird dog, 2 helicopters bucketing, 2 Coast Guard helicopters, and local fire departments are continuing to work with us. The ground crew working on this fire guard is around 25 people, and work continues on the east and the west boundaries. St. John's Regional Fire Department continues to provide ground suppression along the Trans-Canada Highway, and residents are reminded that this fire is still very active and to monitor official government sources for updates. Just on that note, I have seen on social media over the last 24 hours people reporting or making the decision to say that they felt that the Paddy's Pond fire was out. It is not out. It is still out of control. We do have good news, but there's still a lot of work to do, and we're not there yet. The Martin Lake fire is now 2,160 hectares. It is about 16 kilometers south of Grand Falls, Windsor. It is about 140 meters from the Route 360, the Beta Spare Highway, but it did not cross overnight. Route 360 will not reopen today, and individuals in this part of the province should be prepared for closure to be extended at least for a couple of days. The weather is better than expected today, and it will be a better day for aerial suppression. The forecast is high, humid, and south and southwest winds. The good news is a possible 10 to 20 millimeters of rain tomorrow. On the fire today, we'll have 2 of our 415s, 2 215s, 3 helicopters, the 802s from New Brunswick, and a bird dog. It is unlikely for ground crews today due to the extreme fire behavior. Another piece of good news is, as a result of the 2022 fire in that area, a 100-meter wide fire break was constructed along the transmission line and built towards Grand Falls, Windsor. That is about 11 kilometers long. So as the fire approaches that fire break was constructed 3 years ago, so that will very much will provide some relief and safety in that part of the area. Unfortunately, we do have reports that cabins are likely impacted, but everyone is safe. And again, there's extreme smoky behavior in this part of the province, so we can't confirm the number of lost structures. Just an update on some other assets that we anticipate getting in the next, hopefully, 24 to 48 hours. One of our super helicopters has arrived, and there are 4 more coming. This includes the 2 Blackhawks we spoke about, the Raptor we spoke about yesterday, and a Super Puma. The unfortunate news is that the weather throughout mainland Canada is delaying departure from where they are and delaying arrival here. So we continue to pray for good weather throughout the country so we can get the assets here. There is also another new water bomber from Ontario that can arrive today, pending weather. 3 more 802s and a bird dog from our friends in the Northwest Territories, which could arrive today, pending weather. Some updates on new fines. Another individual has been fined $50,000 on the West Coast for having a campfire. And an individual in St. John's, I know there was reports over Tuesday night into Wednesday about 3 brush fires that had started in St. John's. That individual will have 3 $50,000 fines in relation to these brush fires. And my understanding is the RNC has also put out a news release related to this, and charges will be pending as laid by the RNC. The last point I want to make is we did open up a tip line for people throughout the province to report any concerns that they may have, individuals they may see violating any regulations. It was a good thing to do. The sad thing resulting from this is people are calling public servants and berating them and criticizing them for decisions that the government has made. That is totally unacceptable. These public servants are working day in and day out, 24/7, to make sure Newfoundlanders and Labradorians are safe. And I know that they are doing everything they can to deliver good news to Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, and to have people use this and tie up resources to vent their ridiculous and unfair and ugly and angry comments at public servants is completely unacceptable, and it's not who we are as Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, and that needs to stop. And I just want every public servant to know that I see them, I know how hard they're working, the ministers up here know it as well, and I want to thank them on behalf of all the good Newfoundlanders and Labradorians for the work that they're doing. Mr. Haggie.
Thank you very much, Premier. I'll try and be brief as we have a larger cast list than usual. Just touching on several subjects, insurance. If you are not involved even in any of these alerts or situations, go check your insurance. And for those people who are, keep your receipts. We've had some comments and questions about water. And I think it was a misunderstanding of things that were said at the previous meeting. The only places that have any restrictions on water that did not exist before the emergency are the ones that have been evacuated and subject to fire damage. If you are in St. John's or any of the surrounding communities, even those under alert, the water is safe, you can drink it, and there is no need for any concern at all. Financial support continues, and the Red Cross are making disbursements. There are arrangements for those people now who were in Musgrave Harbour and evacuated, and Badger who were evacuated, to also claim for their financial support. Those details are in detail on the Government of Newfoundland and Labrador website, and also will be detailed in this advisory. I just want to reiterate some of the things I've said before. There are active discussions with the federal government. I had a very productive discussion with Minister Olszewski and her staff yesterday afternoon, and it was down to the level of, shall we change a dangerous goods crossing with Marine Atlantic to get the avgas here faster? They are being very helpful and are working hard to try and facilitate all of our requests, which we've prioritized, given the fact that there are so many fires elsewhere. And I'd like to thank our colleagues across the country for their help and their support. We do have a tip line, as the Premier referenced. If you see something suspicious, if you see it, report it. Don't resort to social media. And for those assholes who were on the phone yesterday talking crap to our staff, stop it. You're the same people who trolled us during COVID, and it was unacceptable then, and it's unacceptable now. This is a state of crisis. Our staff are not there to do anything except help, and they have done it to the best of their ability. They deserve better than that. So please listen to government sources and not these fools on Facebook. The yellow bar at the top of the Government of Newfoundland and Labrador website, that's the wildfire alert. That's where you'll find everything you need to know. And to close, I would simply like to say, please be kind, like the 99.9% of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. Support your friends and neighbours. Thank you very much, Premier.
Thank you for your honesty and bluntness, Mr. Haggie, as always. Minister Dempster. On mute, Minister. Lisa, you're on mute. Lisa?
You're on mute, Lisa.
So sorry so much for trying to be quick. Thank you, Premier. 2 quick points that will directly relate to the bulk of the emails we've received over the last 24 hours that relate to industrial use and ATVs. I want to remind the people of the province that the Department of Fisheries, Forestry and Agriculture have extended the suspension of all forest operating permits in areas of the province where the fire hazard index is very high or extreme. That suspension covers all industrial operations, including domestic harvesting, and is in effect until further notice. There's been a number of questions around ATV use. I'm going to put it quite simply. People should avoid travel to and in the woods if possible. Please just take a weekend off. Stay home for a few days, and that will be your huge contribution to our efforts here. As I said, we are prohibiting any heavy equipment or industrial activities on forested land. If it is possible, as the Premier said, to start a fire with the activity, you shouldn't be doing it. We're just simply asking to apply some common sense on everything you do now through that lens with your choices. Thank you. Back to you, Premier.
Thank you very much, Minister Dempster. Minister Howell, welcome.
Thank you, Premier, and good morning, everyone. As the Premier has noted, we are aware that the situation is causing a lot of stress and anxiety for folks in Newfoundland and Labrador, and particularly those who have been evacuated or maybe under an evacuation alert. So we thought it was important today to put some information out there to let folks know what resources are available and where you may be able to go in the event that you need to access healthcare services. So there's a great deal of anxiety and challenges, and we can't stress enough the importance of prioritizing your health and well-being and being there for your family, your friends, and your neighbors, and helping each other as we all get through this. So as the health and safety of the people of the province remain of paramount importance, the Department of Health and Community Services and NL Health Services continue to monitor and work diligently to ensure that all of our residents have access to healthcare services when they need them. So just take a few moments to provide an update on the healthcare services in the areas that are impacted by the wildfires. And I'll start by saying that emergency services are still available. Our ERs are still open, and you still call 911 for emergencies. There are some different caveats that will play here, but the bulk of the information is that ERs are still open and 911 is still available. We do have a closure of the Western Bay Clinic, and that's due to the evacuation, as well as in the Kingston and Adams Cove area. There is a temporary pop-up primary care clinic that's in Carbonear, and it's in the Carbonear Community Health Services building. And you can show up there for residents who may need primary care, things like coughs, colds, prescription refills. You can divert those people away from an emergency department, and you can show up in the pop-up clinic. There's also NLHS staff providing primary care services and mental health supports at the Carbonear Academy 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for all of those who've been evacuated. And they have quite an operation going on there in Carbonear Academy, and hats off to them for how they've been able to pivot and bring resources to that center. There's also a community supports program on site there from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. There's a multitude of staff available to provide supports. We have 2 social workers and 4 nurses who are providing mental health and addiction supports, 1 social worker and a physiotherapist who are providing community supports, a nurse practitioner providing virtual primary health care, a registered nurse, and a seniors link worker who are helping connect seniors to appropriate resources and services in the community. And the NLH staff are also at the Persalvic School in Victoria, and they're supporting first responders there who may have any mental health challenges or some minor wound care that's required. A registered nurse, a licensed practical nurse, and a social worker remain on that site from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. And for seniors or persons with disabilities who are staying at the evacuation site, NLHS is providing mobility assets and assist for those individuals, as well as beds and wheelchairs where required. So if there are supports that are required, please reach out and we'll do our very best to ensure that they're available to you. In the Conagra Peninsula, I know that there are some questions and concerns about that now with the road closure. We do know that residents who would have had to travel that road for appointments may experience delays. because of the closure, but there's no reduction in the NLHS services in Central Zone at present. So folks who would have had appointments that they can't get to because of the road closure, they will be rescheduled. And otherwise, residents can just proceed to the regular healthcare facilities in their area for care. NLHS will be contacting patients affected by this road closure who had appointments at James Patton Memorial Hospital and Central Newfoundland's Regional Hospital. For urgent appointments such as cancer treatment or dialysis, NL Health Services are making alternate arrangements, and for non-urgent appointments, they'll be contacting you to reschedule at the earliest possible date to make sure that you still have access, timely access to the care that you need. And as part of regular operations and the regular responsibilities of NLHS, there are contingency plans in place in events like this. So they've been tasked now to mobilize that and modify it so that all the needs of the residents of the Conagra Peninsula are met. In the St. John's and the Avalon region, some services are being impacted at St. Clair's Mercy Hospital and the Health Sciences Center, as well as the Janeway. Elective and day surgeries, as well as non-urgent outpatient endoscopy procedures, are postponed for the week. NLHS is contacting all impacted patients and will reschedule them as soon as possible. So all urgent and emergent surgeries, as well as cancer and cardiac surgery and clinic appointments will continue and proceed as normal. Some outpatient appointments will proceed virtually, and that may be patients who don't want to travel into the area at this time, who need to have that service provided to them in their own communities. So that's also an option that we're looking at and working on. But again, reminder that urgent and emergency health care services are continuing and emergency departments are remaining open. There's also a site at Admiral's Academy for individuals who've been evacuated from the Paradise area, and there are mental health supports available at that center should you need it. So we do know that there were some questions and concerns about personal care homes in the areas, but NLHS has been in contact with those organizations as well, and certainly have a plan in place to support evacuations if necessary. So I know that's a lot of information and a lot of details, but NLHS will be developing a 1-800 number that any patient who has a question about their appointments in these particular zones will be able to call and receive information. I don't have that right at this moment, but it will be available by the end of the day, and NLHS will make their release when that is appropriate. So again, just want to reiterate that if you are experiencing a medical emergency, you are to report to your nearest emergency departments or call 911. So folks, that's a lot. There's a lot going on right now, and we want to remind everybody to take care of their mental health. And we know that there are people who are feeling overwhelmed, and you might just need someone to talk to. These resources are still available in our communities. You can call 811 for free medical and health supports. You can visit a local Doorways clinic or visit the Bridge the Gap website for online mental health resources. There's an enormous burden placed on us right now. Everybody is experiencing the stress and strain of these fires, but we will continue to look for ways to support Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. And as the Premier said before, we know that this fire will end, but there will still be challenges thereafter. Many people will have stressors and questions and high levels of anxiety for some time to come. So we're contemplating what supports for the long term look like now. But we want to assure you that going forward, we are planning for supports for individuals who've been impacted by this fire. And this includes the first responders and the individuals who are working on the front lines, who are literally and figuratively holding the line for us right now. And we're going to work on wellness sessions to be offered by NLHS, as well as education sessions, group supports. That'll all be available in the coming days for individuals. And there are wellness officers now being placed in the health zones to explore wellness strategies for employees who may have trauma related to the fires and this current situation. So the challenges that we face, we know they're significant, but it's important to recognize that people are stepping up all across the province. We see this in the determination of our firefighters, our first responders, the volunteers. We see this in the tireless efforts of individuals who are just making changes to their day-to-day so that they can accommodate others and be accommodating of this situation. And we certainly see it in the dedication of our healthcare workers. We know that folks are showing up to work when they've been evacuated from their homes, and they're still showing up for their day's work, knowing what the consequence could be to their own families and their own areas. So people are stepping up and going above and beyond. And as the Premier stated, the public servants in this province are second to none. And in times like these, they shine their brightest and they deliver for the people of Newfoundland and Labrador. So a huge thank you to them. Be assured that if you're impacted by these fires, we're here to support you. We will be available with resources, and we want you to take care of your physical and mental health at this time. So a heartfelt thank you to everyone who continues these efforts. And, there will be an end to all of this. We just have to stick together, and we'll see it through. And as we've done in times before, we'll come together and support each other. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Howell. Any questions this morning?
Premier, as you mentioned, the RNC has arrested a man for setting brush fires in St. John's. Great work by police, but what is your thoughts on somebody intentionally setting fires right now?
It just continues to, I guess, be unbelievable. I think every Newfoundlander and Labradorian feels like I feel, and like all the ministers feel, and probably all of you feel. Just shocked and surprised that someone would do something like that in any day. But given the situation we're in right now, obviously we've been talking for days about the finite number of assets that are available in the country to fight fires, and to intentionally set a fire that needed assets, and thankfully the St. John's Regional Fire Department was able to address that situation very quickly, is just it's kind of unthinkable, and can't really get my head around how someone would want to do that.
You warned people not to be too optimistic or to jump to conclusions with the status of the fire in Paddy's Pond, rather. What is the correct amount of optimism to have?
I think I said it earlier this week. Let's always be hopeful and let's always be optimistic, but let's be realistic as well. This is why we continue to provide these updates daily and sometimes twice daily, so people can get the correct information. Make sure that people are prepared. They should be prepared in the event there's an evacuation order. Aware that the situation can always worsen. But it's important to provide the update in terms of when we get good news as well. We're not just here to scare people. We're here to make sure that people are aware of the specific situation going on. I think we have better news today at Paddy's Pond than we did yesterday. So continue to be hopeful, continue to be optimistic, but continue to be aware of what can happen. I know, these things, we've talked about this as well, can change hourly. But we have a good weather report today. We have good news on the suppression that worked yesterday. We have good news in terms of it potentially blowing into Paddy's Pond. So I guess, my comment will be always be hopeful, but always be realistic as well.
There was a video circulating on social media yesterday that I think might have fueled some of that.
Yeah.
It showed some smoke in the area, but no visible flame. So maybe can you speak to what people were seeing yesterday and why that's still considered?
Yeah, I think
to be
Jamie
out of
can speak to
control?
that, but no flame doesn't mean no fire or no risk.
I'll take that and I'll use an example from earlier this year. So I did do a flight over one of the other forest fires and was there at the late afternoon period that tends to have the most forest fire activity, and within the span of 20 minutes to a half hour, that fire went from very smoky, very limited open flame to just a wall of open flame. So Premier's absolutely right. That fire's not out. It's into the ground, and it's still really warm, albeit some cloud cover and those types of things are positive news. So I think optimistic, but still not at a point where we're talking about this thing being held or under control.
What kind of conditions would we need to see with that particular fire to lift the evacuation or alert orders?
I don't think we're at a point in time to even start that discussion. Obviously, it would be informed by a recommendation from our incident commander, And based on the fact that, you know, a day and a half ago, that fire was in very serious, you know, high-ranked risk to several communities in and around St. John's, you know, I'd just leave that there right now.
But like, would all the hot spots need to be out? Like, what kind of conditions need to be there to lift things?
So I just used the example that a couple of days ago, hot spots were detected on the Holyrood fire. They were addressed. There are still people who are around the Holyrood fire. So there will be a point in time where the incident command will figure that that is safe to have a discussion about people going back and changing the status to being held as opposed to out of control that it is now.
The Bay to Spear Highway, what factors go into play to be able to let people through that highway there?
Yeah, I think, obviously, well, two things, the location of the fire and the smoke. I mean, it was closed originally, my understanding, if I can remember correctly, was it was smoke. I think that's what happened in 2022 as well. So, you know, that's gonna be, those are the two major factors.
What are the fines for using an ATV in forested area, and have you hit anyone with fines yet?
No one hit with fines yet, is my understanding. Obviously, this is a new order that's in place, and the fines would be around like the $200 range, sort of closer to where the original fines were before we raised them on the fire ban regulations.
So they're not the $50,000?
No.
I do want to ask with the fire ban fines, every so often we are reminded that the province is owed some millions in outstanding fines, or we're reminded that a certain driver has been caught with some thousands of dollars in outstanding fines.
Yeah.
How likely do you think these fines are actually going to be collected, and if it's not very likely, is it a good deterrent?
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know these individuals and whether they have the means to pay these fines. They are still a deterrent because individuals who can pay them, I would hope, would take note of the fact that they can and people have been fined. So it does provide that deterrence. When you look at the purpose of punishment for criminal activity, deterrence is one of them, punishment is one of them, taking responsibility for your, you know, negligent criminal actions is another one. So I do think it definitely will help people understand the risks that they're putting themselves in financially or their security, and they might end up in jail. That could certainly happen regardless of whether you're able to pay the fine or not. I think as well, just want to make clear that the regulations in place for breaching the Forestry Act regulations, they're not new. They have always been in place. This act is, 35 years old. All that we've done this week or last week was change the amount of fines. So it's very clear to me, and you guys had asked this question about whether this will matter. People are talking about this now. People are now going to be more aware of what the regulations are, what they can and can't do. So I think in terms of whether we've succeeded in bringing awareness to what people can and can't do during the situation as a result of increasing fines, I think that's been accomplished.
The RNC said yesterday they located a woman with possible information about the Paddy Pond fire. Have any charges been laid in relation to that fire, or any of the others that are currently out of control across the province?
The only charges I'm aware of right now are the arson charges that were, RNC just issued a release this morning. My understanding is that she would not be charged, that they spoke to her, and she provided information about what she was doing there.
We've heard from people on the south coast that have been traveling to Pools Cove to take the ferry to Ramcounter and then on to Bay Largent to access the road network. Would you consider transportation options for these people? It's only a passenger ferry. Would you consider transportation options for people from Bay Largent to, say, get to St. John's, or even replace that with a vehicle ferry?
So there's a ferry operating right now between the two peninsulas. And of course, as we continue to look at how long the Bay to Spear Highway is going to be closed, we'll look at options about, I assume you mean using maybe potential helicopters or things like that. I'm sure Newfoundland and Labrador Health Services, in the event of emergency, those options will be available.
It's also, like, a lot of people, I've spoke to some people who mentioned that they get to Bay Largent from Pools Cove, and, you know, Bay Largent's not a very big community, and there's not much transportation options to get to St. John's or Marystown. Would you provide assistance in that transportation?
Yeah, so, we're looking at all those options to make sure people can come and go as necessary. But people who don't need to leave the peninsula right now, we recommend, of course, they stay where they are and just wait until the highway's open.
We're hearing from some volunteer fire departments that they need help with more wildland firefighting gear. Will the
Did you
province
say gear?
specifically for forest fires, for wildland forest fires, will the province commit to spending more on volunteer fire departments during the next budget or funding cycle?
Yeah, so we've already committed to spending more in terms of volunteers who are putting in this extraordinary effort, and they will be compensated once we figure out exactly how much effort was put in. I know it's not a small amount of effort. This is why we've made the decision as a government to compensate the individual firefighters for the extraordinary and dangerous work that they, I don't know if they signed up to do this. They didn't sign up to fight wildfires, but they're doing it anyways. So I think that's a signal for sure that we recognize the efforts that volunteer firefighters are making throughout the province. And as I said for the last 2 weeks as well, I think this is a conversation that we will have as a province and we will have as a country about how firefighters are deployed and compensated going forward.
Or will there be a commitment specifically for wildfire fighting gears for these departments?
You know, we will continually have to reassess and continually assess going forward what risk the province is at for future wildfires and what equipment is needed. And if more equipment is needed, more gear is needed, then yeah, we will fund that.
How many people do you suspect are out of work due to the forest operating permits being suspended at the moment?
I can't comment on that.
We've heard from some ATV tourism operators who are wondering if there will be any compensation for loss of income for them because of the ATV ban. Can you comment on that?
So this is, you know, these are all the consequences that happened to roll out after almost 2 weeks of wildfires. And we are going to look at everything as these issues arise. For example, EI, you know, that wasn't an issue necessarily last week, and it is an issue now. This is why we're going to talk to the federal government about that. So in terms of businesses that may be impacted because of decisions that the government had to make, the right decisions to make sure Newfoundlanders and Labradorians are safe, that's always the priority. We'll certainly have those conversations with those groups.
And there are some, obviously, communities that have been devastated by this. We're a couple weeks out now from the start of a new school year. Is there being any consideration to how that might look in some of these areas now?
Absolutely. So, you know, there are schools in this area that are affected. Potentially a school structure may be damaged and or lost. So I spoke to the Minister of Education yesterday about this very issue, and he's very much on top of it. Actually, he'll be providing an update on this tomorrow morning because I know parents are going to start getting worried about this as well. We'll make sure that the children are in school on time, and we will maybe have to allocate or reallocate where students go. But we'll make sure that those resources are there for the students.
As assessments continue in the area, it's known now more homes in the Conception Bay North area have been lost. What is your message to these people?
The message today is the same message it was on day one. You know, I understand, I can't understand, I hear the stress, I hear the, you know, the disappointment, the anger, the frustration when I speak to them. And I've asked them to be patient. It's very easy for me to ask that. I'm not the one sleeping in the gym. I'm not the one who doesn't know if my house is still there or not. But they have, you know, they have been patient and they are accepting what's happening, and they know that some of this is just in Mother Nature's control. And that we'll continue to be there for them. And once these fires are out, and they will be out, and we get into the communities to see what's left and what's gone, we'll work with every individual, every family, every business, every mayor to see how we can rebuild the communities.
The phone calls that public servants are getting, I gather that you don't agree with them, but what is the nature of what people are saying? Are they complaining about the fire ban, the ATV ban? Like, what are they actually saying?
Yeah, so I heard about this morning on the way down to this briefing. I think certainly one of the things, and Jamie can maybe comment a little bit more specifically, being upset about decisions of government, which are not decisions of public servants, of course, and you know, how can you ban things? Who do you guys think you are? Why are you trying to control us? You know, comments like that. And you know, again, I can't stress it's unacceptable. And you know, me and the other ministers here, we sort of signed up for those criticisms. In some cases, criticisms which, you know, people know go too far. But we signed up for it. Public servants didn't sign up for that, and that's not fair. That's not right.
The other thing I wanted to ask is, could you give a bit of more of an accounting of the air assets? Which ones are through the CIFFC and which ones are privately?
So maybe what we'll do is, there's a lot of assets, and I was able to tell you specifically this last week what we had here, but as they continue to grow, we'll put together a specific list of what we have and what's coming and provide that to you.
that too, for what's coming?
We can tell you what's coming, but we can't necessarily tell you when because of the weather situation. But yeah, we can do our best. Yeah. Okay. Thanks everyone. Stay safe.